Order, Monday, May 8th, 2017, 6:30 PM. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started, can I just have a quick moment of silence for Mr. Bergeron, moderator in this town for many, many years, a well-respected individual, and I think we owe it to him to have at least a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Also would like to, on a better note, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Cameron Foyts for his victory, as well as Diane for her victory. Mr. Foyts is probably one of the youngest, I think is the youngest selectman to be elected here in town at the age of 23. So congratulations, Mr. Foyts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Congratulations, Diane.
Thank you.
I'm gonna wait for Mr. Tanzini to get back. He should be here momentarily. No worries. Thank you so much. All right, at this point, we're gonna go into reorganization of the Board of Selectmen. So at this point, we can entertain any type of
I would make a
recommendation.
motion to elect Diane Haley Brooks as chair.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion, and a second. Any other discussion?
I'd like to make a motion, can I do that?
No, we have to do a
during
roll
this
call,
or
no, you
after?
cannot.
Okay.
I have a motion, and a second. Any discussion? We'll do a roll call. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes?
Mr. Foyts?
No.
Julie?
No,
And I vote no as well. I don't understand any other motions at this point.
I'll make a motion to nominate John Kaplis as chairman of the board.
I second that.
I have a motion, and a second. Do I have any discussion concerning the, well, first of all, thank you very much. Any other discussion concerning that? I see none. We'll do a roll call vote. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
No.
Mr. Foyts?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes,
And I vote yes as well. Thank you all for doing that, I appreciate it. We need to do a motion for vice chair.
I would make a motion to nominate Diane as vice chair.
A motion for Diane Haley Brooks to be vice chair. Do I have a second?
second.
Have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion?
I respectfully decline
Okay,
at this time.
okay. All right. I'll entertain another motion at this point. Thank you, Diane.
So I would make a motion for Cameron Forts to be vice chair.
I have a motion to make Mr. Foyt's vice chair. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other concern? Anyone else? I see none. Roll call vote. I have a motion and a second for Mr. Cameron Foyt to be vice chair. Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes?
Julie?
Yes,
Mr. Foyt?
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well.
I would make a nomination to make Julie the clerk.
Okay, I have a motion to, for Julie to be clerk,
I second.
and I have a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Diane?
Yes?
Yes.
Cameron?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, that takes care of that. Moving on to the meeting minutes. We have a lot of minutes here to look at. Did everybody get a chance to look at the email concerning this?
Mhm.
On the, not only just the meeting minutes, but the executive session minutes as well. Because obviously, once these are approved, they're gonna go right online. Yes, we are. Did you get do you get the change on the edit page on,
For,
for that was April 24th?
yeah, I did.
Okay. There was a correction made. So I can start with the minutes from March 16th.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of March 16th, 2017, as written.
I have a motion is written for March 16th. Any, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion is second. Any other discussion concerning the minutes? I see none. Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
Abstain.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of Monday, March 20th, 2017, as written.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion concerning March 20th? I see none. Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
Abstain.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Sorry, I was reading some of these.
That's okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from 4/3/17 as written.
Okay, April 3rd as written. You have a second?
Second.
A motion is second. Any other discussion? I see none. Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for 4/11/17.
As written.
As written, sorry.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yeah.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, April 19th, as written.
Okay, I have April 19th as written. Any, have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion concerning the minutes for April 19th? I see none. Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of Monday, April 24th, 2017, as written. Because you all have that edit page, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, thanks.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, April 25th, as written.
Okay, a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any other discussion concerning the minutes for April 25th? See none. Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Going into the executive session minutes.
I'm sorry, are we on executive session minutes now?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so, sorry, just woke up. I make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of January 19th, 2017, to be released in its entirety.
Okay, a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any other discussion? See none. Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
I make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of February 6th, 2017, to be released in its entirety.
Okay, a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other discussion concerning the executive session minutes? I see none. Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
I vote yes as well.
I make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of February 13th, 2017, to not be released at this time.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any other discussion concerning that? See none. Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
I make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of February 22nd, 2017, to be released in its entirety.
Okay, I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Thank you. Any other discussion? Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
I make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of February 27th, 2017, to be released in its entirety.
Okay, a motion, I have a second.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I see none. Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
No.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
I make a motion to approve the executive session minutes of April 24th, 2017, to not be released at this time.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? None. Cameron?
Abstain.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
Sorry.
Mr. Tanzini, how you doing?
Very fine, you,
Great.
Mr. Chairman.
Introductions of new hires?
Yes, although you've given me the authority to appoint town staff, I do believe it's important that you see the new faces that are joining us, so that as they're about town, you'll recognize them. And with that, I would ask Alan Mayo to introduce the most recent hire.
Board, this is Scott Casey. He's our new recent hire for seasonal labor for the buildings and grounds department.
Excellent, great.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard, sir. Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you very much.
When is the start date?
Start date was today, and he'll be with us through October 30.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we did receive word earlier
I
today
got
that
it.
the moderator
got it.
would be delayed.
Should we go into C, or do you want to pass C as well? The ATM motions,
Your pleasure, I think.
or you want to wait till he comes here?
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Understood. Pursuit possible, regionalization of the finance team, Mr. Tanzini?
Sure. As you all know, finding good, qualified financial people, accountants, treasurer collectors, and on another front, town administrators, town managers is presenting a challenge to many communities across the Commonwealth. You've seen it in your own recruiting efforts. You've heard from DLR, you've heard from your neighbors. Most recently, you heard from the town auditor in making his exit conference. What he and DOR have suggested, that perhaps as we look to meet our needs, we look to what our neighbors' needs might be as well. Most immediately, we have our neighbor with which we are in the compact for the schools, needing to fill their town accountant position. And so what he and DOR have suggested, and what I reached out to Phillipston was to determine if that was of any interest to them. Someone from this board perhaps joining me and a member of their board to explore that. So this is to ask this board for permission to formally meet with the town of Phillipston, should they decide to pursue it, and to determine which amongst your members would be part of those conversations.
Okay,
And for clarification, that is just to explore the option, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So did they respond to your email that they did have interest to discuss it, or?
The first conversation that they had was that they wanted to put it off for a week. They had their town meeting coming up. They had other matters in front of them.
Mhm.
So I think their formal first in-depth conversation about it's probably actually happening, perhaps even right now as we're discussing it, because they meet on the same nights as us. but-
Mhm. I mean, I don't see any harm in discussing it. I mean, we'd have to make sure everyone, we agree with, what terms. We can't, I think, afford to reduce our accountant's hours at this point in time, in my opinion.
I agree that we can't lose sight of our needs. However, we work a 4-day week. They have other needs, and sometimes when work is rebalanced, as we're about to look at the workflow with an assistant town accountant being advertised here shortly, there might be some possibilities there. And the other interesting thing about these kinds of conversations is that perhaps there wasn't anything down that avenue, but they then realized there was an opportunity maybe to do something that they hadn't thought about doing. So this would only be for some informal discussions. I think it took Lee and Lennox, let's just say it took them quite a while before they came to their most recent accommodation.
do you have an issue with entertaining that?
No, I have no issue with it.
Cameron, do you have any issue with that?
Nope, not at all.
Diane, do you have any other questions?
Nope.
Really? I'm sorry.
Really?
You're really good. You always got the good questions.
No, I agree with Doug, and I think that because it was spoken of at the audit meeting, some Phillipston residents have reached out to me, and they would prefer that that not happen at all.
As far as
So, no,
sharing
Nope.
the accountant
no,
person?
but you know what, I mean, that's just, I think just talking about it is one thing, but I think, you know, even though we have I mean, depending on qualifications of the person who comes in to work with Kelly, I mean, I think
Assistant,
we have to, right now, given the, you know, what we've just come through, I think that we have to kind of worry about Templeton first.
Understood.
So those are just my thoughts. I
Yeah.
mean, to go and just talk to them and then to bring something back here, that'd be fun.
Okay, all right, great. All right, then I can entertain a motion then. Who would you want? You want it,
I mean, you would do it during the day, right? So the evening, it doesn't really matter.
Either way, I would suggest that sometimes in these instances, having a cautious skeptic person can be a good liaison,
yeah,
because they kind of keep the train moving slowly and carefully. I can work with any one of you. I mean, that's up to you all.
I would entertain that idea.
What?
I would be interested in that,
Okay.
sitting in on that, sure.
okay. Okay, thank you, Julie. All right, I can at this point entertain a motion and at least to go into some type of communication with Phillipston. Obviously with Julie Richard as the selectman
So
on
moved.
the meetings. Okay, have a second?
Second.
Okay, any other discussion concerning that? I see none. Cameron?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
I'll abstain.
And I vote yes as well. The IT service contract?
Mr. Chairman, I did
Yes.
see our moderator come in. If you want to,
Oh, please.
Oh, like, he did?
No,
He
I-
has his jacket on.
Mr. Moderator? Okay, I guess we can go into the presentation with the moderator, the ATM ground rules. If you want to come on up. First off, congratulations, Mr. Moderator, on your recent victory at the polls.
Oh, thank you. This the hot seat?
It is.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, you have some ground rules? I would assume you're going to present to us? Or how are we presenting to you?
I think, if I may, after the fall town meeting, the town clerk, the moderator, and I had some discussions, and I think he has come to some
Okay,
ground rules that he'd like to share with you. We would then follow with that. The following item is for the board to settle upon which article each of you are going to present on and the form that that presentation is going to make. And I think you'll see that ties back to the moderator's ground rules.
Sure.
okay.
It was a suggestion, as well as just following basically the bylaws and town meeting times. So some of the stuff that we have is obviously directly related to that. Just to try to have more of a structure and, well, I'll kind of explain as I go on.
Okay,
So in the very beginning, we're gonna call the meeting to order. We're gonna have to do housekeeping items. I did check with the new fire chief, and I asked him if what we said about the fire exits was appropriate. He thought that was fine, so I'm gonna, continue. Here are the exits.
Mhm.
If you've done so already, please silence your phones and the other electronic devices. The last annual town meeting,
we had a few of them.
right. So again, it just out of courtesy, especially if somebody's speaking or whatever, we don't have something beeping in the background. Obviously, tradition, pledge of allegiance, okay? I don't need to explain every detail but I'm just letting you know kind of in order which way they're going. Again, some of the things coming from the town clerk, that the return of the warrant, that it was served and posted properly. Any kind of special guests, introductions? Okay,
Well, can I add there,
Sure.
Mr. Moderator, if, I would really like, because some of the townsfolk, maybe they know most of us, but, as far as all the people should be introduced, or they should introduce themselves, I think so. Like the Board of Selectmen should introduce themselves, the Advisory Committee should introduce themselves, Mr. Tanzini, the accountant, the people that will be potentially speaking should have some type of small introduction at the beginning. Do you agree?
I agree, sure.
I'm just throwing it out there.
I have no,
Um,
I know a lot of the times, and that's one of my things further down,
Mhm.
when you do get up, name, address, whatever,
Yeah.
say,
Right,
there's your introduction, you know, even if you were just, you know, somebody using a regular microphone from the audience or something. So I have no problem with that at all. I like that idea.
okay.
Sure.
what do you mean by, special guests?
If there's anything special, like,
State senator, rep, state rep.
Oh, okay.
or, basically if there's anything that's going to happen, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but there, something's gonna happen that doesn't really, involve the meeting, but it needs to be like recognized, or say there's, an award or anything like that. The recommendations are that this is the time that it happens in this type of procedure, not right after Article 7.
Right,
All
no,
of
I
a sudden, we
gotcha.
give somebody an award, you know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
The time to recognize somebody, and I say an award, I'm just coming up with an example, but the time to recognize them is in this type of procedure,
No, understood.
you know. Not registered voters, I know that's been an issue. We want to have them seated to one certain area. The town clerk and myself have also spoke, we're gonna have somebody overseeing that. There's been a couple of conflicts in the past, we wanna make sure that those are cleared up.
Mhm.
Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call for 6 volunteers for hand counting, for the hand counting votes. There's been both ways, we've actually appointed them at the beginning, and then we've also waited until we needed a hand count. I would rather have them ready to go, so it doesn't take up our time later on to say, okay, any volunteers? And then, okay, now I gotta appoint them, all that kind of stuff, so if we could have that, try to get everything out of the way, you know, as soon as we can.
Okay.
Obviously, appointment. With regards to some of the ground rules, and again, I'm just going by some of the bylaws that we have and town meeting time, that if you have a hand count, it's declared by the moderator, which is immediately questioned by 7 or more people, standing or recognized. I understand that, but again, if some people don't understand how to do that, so I'll try to explain that to people, that if you have 7 or more, okay, now we'll have a hand count. Anyone wishing to speak must first use or be acknowledged by the moderator. We're not gonna entertain any kind of shout-outs. I know that's been an issue in the past, like, hand count, you know, move the question. We're not gonna have that, okay? And if you need a microphone, we'll make those arrangements for you,
Gotcha.
okay? Let's see, you'll be asked to state your name and address every time you're given permission to speak. Again, I know it's kind of like an ongoing or a joke, you know, I still live at 123 Main Street, my name is still, you know, so-and-so, I think that's pretty funny. However, in being serious about it, that if you had attended the meeting a little late, if you happen to be using the restroom, things like that, and you came in the middle of it, well, you know, who is this person that got up and started speaking? You know, now at least it'd be,
Right.
you know, you could even nudge your neighbor and say, oh, who's this guy? Well, he introduced him or herself to the audience, to the crowd. I was actually kind of against that, but the rules are, every time you get up, and that's what's gonna happen.
Understood.
Again, just trying to keep it in an orderly fashion, so there's no shout-outs. Everybody knows the same people speak all the time, and I get that, but they're gonna have to say their name and address just to be fair for everybody else. We could have some new people in town, maybe attending the meeting for the first time.
Right.
And they don't know who this person is that speaks every single time at the meeting. Again, just trying to be fair and not take any sides or anything like that. The other thing is, when you do have the microphone, you're gonna be speaking as a resident or on behalf of a board. And this includes the board that's before me as well. you can have your opinion on both. I'm not saying which one or whatever, but what I would be able to understand is that if you got up as a select person, selectman, select woman, okay, select person, and you're representing the board, that the board also believes in whatever it is that you're saying, okay? If you're speaking as a town resident, okay. And that's what I try to decipher. I know a lot of times it's been pretty good, but there has been some kind of conflicts in the past where, especially when there's different areas of seating, so you have a microphone in front of yourself, and you know, John, I'm just using an example, you know, you have a microphone in front of, who are you? You know what I mean? So if you could identify yourself, and in the past, what's happened is actually the select board, because they're up on the stage, has actually come down, okay, and used the microphone down on the floor or whatever. That's fine too, whatever, but advisory board or any other kind of board or committee, who are you? You know what I mean, just so it's fair for everybody.
Yeah, Doug just made a good point. I want to see one of us is gonna make a point as a resident, not as a selectman. As a resident, we should go down on the floor.
We go down on the
Yeah, 'cause
floor.
that's more
if we
respectful
wanna
for
speak
you as
a
the
resident.
moderator.
I wouldn't do it from the stage.
I wouldn't either.
I would say for that, for me, but also, you know, for the rest of the town as well,
True,
to,
absolutely.
you know, understand where you're coming from, you know? And it's all for positive, it's all for the right
Absolutely.
reasons, you know what I mean? I like this one, it's actually pretty good. Anyone unruly or disorderly will be given a warning and advised that they are out of order. If the situation continues, they'll be escorted out of the meeting into a convenient place. I'm not exactly sure what a convenient place is yet.
Is that like in the cruiser, or?
You will be escorted into a convenient place, okay? Right, and that'll be until the
Confined
meeting is
space.
adjourned, so, you know, we like to have a couple of laughs at it, but we're also serious, that if somebody
Understood.
has the microphone, it's all about respect, it's all about trying to be professional, and, you know, yes, go ahead.
If you could define what this behavior would be that would allude you to this confined space.
Well, I won't get real specific, but, because I think we can go on about scenarios all night long. I
But
think
just
it's
generally, I guess.
discretion at the moderator, you know, I
Okay.
think I'm a very fair person, and I think that, if you're interrupting the meeting, if you're not, you know, giving your name and address and using the microphone and some of these things that we're trying to go over right now, you know what I'm saying? And you're just simply disrupting the meeting for whatever reason, you'll have the right to use the microphone, I'm gonna give you that right.
Yep.
But if there's other things that, you know, and you're out of order, you're given a warning, it's not like you'll be thrown out right away.
Okay, so it's at your discretion what you constitute as behavior.
Right, but there's a lot of discretion, and a lot of reasonableness in the
That's
meeting.
fair enough,
You
that's-
know, no, sure, I mean, we
Okay.
try not to interrupt somebody else that has the microphone or something like that, you know? And that's what I'm all about, I really wanna be fair, and, what I will do is I'll actually kinda go back a little bit, is that I'm not a real political person, and I am not a person that, knows all the answers, okay? I'm there to run the meeting and try to be fair about it. I'm not there to take sides or anything like that, so, you know, sometimes I'm looked upon that, you know, it's the moderator's decision, discretion, all that, which it is, and I have to make decisions and judgment and all that, but I don't know that exact figure that you guys work months and months and months on for whatever, for the budget, for whatever, okay? So a lot of times if a question, because that's what it should be, right? You get up to the microphone, have a question. I may not know the answer to that question, so I'm gonna refer you to somebody who knows more.
Right.
Maybe the town administrator, maybe the select board, okay? Maybe a committee, maybe whatever. That doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm doing. It simply means that I don't have expertise in that one particular area. The engineer on the school knows a heck of a lot more than I do about the structure, right? So that's
I would
exactly my
hope so.
point, yes, you know what I mean? So I would refer people to that, to a, you know, somebody can answer the question.
Understood.
And procedurally, I just wanna make sure that they don't get interrupted. They can have their answer answered, you know, and understand the reasons why we try to do it, yes.
Do you plan on posting on the doors into the auditorium the rules that you're laying down now?
I'm sorry, Ken.
Oh.
If you're posting the rules on the door on the way in.
So that people that are coming in or out will know these ground
What I'm
rules?
going to do is basically not take as long, but I'm going to go over it just like we are now. I'm just kinda taking a couple extra minutes to explain it, and if, you know, if you have any questions or anything, I think that's what it's for now. I'm definitely gonna go over it in the beginning of the meeting. My intention, and I know it's gone back and forth a couple of times, but our town meeting is set for 9 AM.
Yep.
We're starting at 9 AM.
Thank you.
Okay. I believe there's enough notice, and I believe there's enough, you know, location to, you know, logistics about it that you should know to get started at 9 AM. However, that does not necessarily mean Article 1's gonna be read at 9 AM, okay? We're gonna do a couple of these things, like I said, if we have any kind of special guests, awards, whatever you wanna call it.
Housekeeping, yeah, I got
I
you.
wanna explain some of these ground rules, okay, I wanna explain some of that stuff, so Article 1 won't be read at 9 AM, but at least we're gonna get into it. The warrant's been posted, it's served properly, all that kind of stuff. Some housekeeping things, that kind of stuff, I wanna make sure all my microphones work, all that kind of stuff, so, you know,
All your signing people outside, signing in as they come in, all that stuff.
and that was one of the questions that's always been brought up, is that if there's a huge line outside, we want to be fair to everybody, so they can vote, okay? And I firmly believe in that, that's fine. However, you know that it starts at 9 AM. How about the people that got into their seat at 8:30? I want to be fair to them as well. They said it starts at 9, why am I waiting until 9:30? I've been here an hour now. Again, I'm trying to be fair, I'm trying to see both sides of it, you
Right.
know?
Got
And
discussion.
if you choose to come in late, well, that's your choice. I'm gonna go over some stuff, so it's not gonna start exactly at 9 for Article 1,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm pretty confident in saying that, you know, we're gonna call the meeting to order at 9 AM and start going over some of these things that I'm going over, yeah,
Sounds good.
definitely, you know. Articles are gonna be read, let me see, well, we went through the convenient place, right?
Yes.
Okay. You know, so the only thing about that is, and this has happened in the past too, I actually did it as a police officer, not as the moderator, but people have been escorted out of the meetings. What they have to understand is once you're escorted out of the meetings, your vote no longer counts. You can't vote from the outside,
Right.
You can't come back
and you cannot come back in
you're-
until the meeting is
so
done.
Once you're,
Once you're done, you're done.
okay.
So I think that is a good point where, and I'll try to make it again, you know,
Mhm.
that understand, anybody can throw it out, right? You get thrown out of a baseball game, I get it, okay? But if you get thrown out of the meeting, your vote doesn't count.
You got thrown out of a baseball game?
So anyway, the next article I'd like to talk about, but,
I
no,
gotcha.
but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you get thrown out, then your vote doesn't count.
Understood.
So
Makes
maybe
sense.
that kind of, you know, way that you act inside the meeting, you know? So the articles are gonna be read by the petitioner and presented in writing. That's not abnormal, we do that all the time. Second, okay, recommendation by the advisory committee. Again, what I think we've got away from a little bit is that the advisory committee, and I'm not here to, you know, the advisory committee has said, okay, we vote, whatever the vote is, and then kind of go into their explanation. I don't think that's the time for it. I think it's gonna be advisory committee, here's our vote. You know, and then, again, I would open it back up if, we'll say the petitioner wanted to explain it more, maybe there's a presentation, maybe there's things like that, that's fine, I would entertain that. And if there wasn't, and the advisory board wanted to be heard again, you know, I'm trying to be fair about who would be next in line. I think that maybe, and I say the advisory board, but I think that's kind of two separate discussions, and they have the microphone, you know, they vote, whatever, 4-1 or something, and this is why we did it, and this is how, and this and that. I think if there needs to be more explanation, then that's when we'll have the more explanation. I would say the same to the board. You know, if you read Article 1 and you just start going into, I'm gonna stop you and say, wait a minute, you know, present Article 1, okay, now we're gonna open it for discussion. And if it happens to be, you're up first for that discussion, okay, that's a different story. But, you know, any board or committee, I don't think they should, you know, just kind of do it all. I think it should be kind of separated. Obviously, open, like I said, open the floor for discussion. The vote's gonna either be passed, defeated, unanimous. There's gonna be some questions with regards to 2/3 and 9/10. Some of those votes have to be certain. So the only thing, and we'll try to clarify that too, you have to understand that every person that's there, say we have a 9/10 or a 2/3 vote or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean, because I know we ran into this as well, you can choose, I don't know how or why, but you can choose not to vote. Say it's an article that you don't vote on. So we have, you know, 500 people, okay? That doesn't necessarily mean we need 9/10 of those 500 people. So again, if I could try to explain some things,
No, we ran into that last year too.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get through them, we'll try to explain it the best we can. The one thing that I've done is, I've tried to get better on trying to explain the article, okay? Or if there's any questions. Originally, I thought that maybe,
when I explained it, that I was basically taking a side, and I didn't want it to seem like I was taking a side on it. But what I'll try to do better is procedurally, you know, and I don't care about the article, but last year, a no vote actually meant yes, and a yes vote actually meant no. As weird as that may sound, you know, if you're present, then you understand what I'm saying, but I think some explanation on that. So,
I think that's happening again, isn't it?
No,
No?
I didn't see it this year.
no, it's
I don't
just
think
this
it's in
year
this
is
year.
no or yes, but yeah, it's fine this year.
Okay.
So again, I may have lacked a little bit in trying to explain that. I'll try, if there's any questions, I'll try to do that better, so that you know what you're voting on.
Right.
One of the biggest things that I was always hesitant about explaining was the reconsideration within 1 hour, okay? I have no problem explaining that, but I just didn't want to seem like, you know, my opinion's in there. My opinion's for the vote, but not necessarily saying, you know, reconsideration, they can't bring it up again and all that, okay?
Right.
I can talk more freely here than I can inside the meeting. So I'll try to explain that a little bit more. Very similar, that in reality, if you're trying to reconsider a question, you don't want it to be brought up again, because you want to stick with that vote that everybody voted on.
Right.
Okay, you don't want to open it up and more discussion. I will explain it, okay, but I just thought that my own opinion was kind of like, well, he must be for this, against that, and so my duties are to kind of explain it so people know which way they're voting,
Understood.
so. Let's see. Motion to dissolve the meeting. So to answer your question, I don't know that I'm going to post it, because I believe, including tonight, we're probably gonna make some changes to it, and I might even make some more changes to it. There's something I didn't think of, there's something that, a suggestion that, you know what I mean?
Makes sense.
I'm open to, you know, questions, comments, concerns.
My concern is that if somebody coming into the meeting around, say, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the meeting had been present, or had been going on for 3 hours, that somebody who was not discussed, or was not present for the rule discussion at the opening of the meeting, that they wouldn't know these formalized rules that were set in place. Which would it would give you a giant headache if you had these people.
Sure.
So,
No,
I'm looking more out for you than
No,
anything.
sure. My suggestion would be there at 9 AM, okay? And if I need to explain a convenient place to them, I certainly can or will. But I, you know, people come and go during the meetings, so it's gonna be kind of difficult for me to, you know, explain it to everybody as they come in one way or another, you know.
Okay.
We haven't had it in the past. I know there was some discussion about possibly giving it to Holly and putting it up on the website. I think maybe when we have more permanent, let's try it out a couple times, whatever, then we certainly can. The only problem is that anytime you make a change, then I gotta go to Holly. Holly's gotta, you know what I mean? It's kind of a procedure to get it up there, and,
Right.
well, that's not what this says, because you changed this. I don't want that either, you know?
Right.
So,
No, I got you. Okay.
So on, can I ask a question?
absolutely.
So on the 2/3, 9/10 vote, so it's 2/3 or 9/10 of the people who cast a vote,
That's what I'm to
not of
understand.
the,
Yes.
not of the,
Not of the total
Of the
amount of
people that are
registered
there.
voters.
just the ones that cast a vote.
Correct. Thank you. Okay. That's my,
No, I
That's
saw
my
the,
background.
I saw the
Yeah.
head nod. I saw the head nod.
thank
Yeah,
you.
so I think that would be a,
Yes,
a good thing to explain, because that's, I don't believe, the general interpretation of
correct.
that.
So if we had 500 voters, that doesn't mean that it has to be 9/10 of 500,
Yeah.
or 2/3 of 500, no, so.
I got you. That makes sense.
So, several years ago, we had done your guide to town meeting in Templeton, and it just kind of explained, what's an amendment to a motion, what's a substitute motion, voice vote, hand count, ballot vote, and I was starting to change it a little bit. Is that something that we could, give to people? I can send that to you. That was
I've read it.
before your time,
I believe
but
I've
I
read it.
think that, a lot of people, you know, it just explains about town meeting as a democracy at its purest, everyone has a voice and a vote, and I put, a reconsideration and explaining you don't have to vote, just same way if we abstain, it's just like that, but maybe if we could give that to them, I mean, again, it's pretty generic.
Sure, and I'm not against it. The only thing I would say is that, if they're interested in more procedure and all that kind of stuff, they can read town meeting time. They can go in our bylaws, and that's basically what it says in those. Some of this stuff that I was trying to bring up now is not necessarily worded or in our bylaws or whatever. So, I guess it'd be a difference of like wanting to know more about the voting procedure, or is it more about like how Templeton's doing it?
No, it's just vocabulary. What is a substitute motion? What is a voice vote? What is a hand count? What is a ballot vote? What does move the question mean? What does point of order mean? What does reconsideration mean? Not just how, a lot of it, I think, comes right from town meeting times.
Right.
And I think that's when, I think that we asked,
Is it like a one-page thing?
Dave, it was
No, there's a couple
it was
pages, yeah.
two-sided.
Actually, I believe I have it with me, yeah.
Yeah, it was just, but again, I think there needed to be a couple of other things. I think there may be a lot of newer people there, and there are newer residents who've been reaching out to me and asking, what does this mean? What does that mean? But they just, not everybody, I mean, I suppose you can go online and look at town meeting times. I have a book.
Right,
But,
exactly.
I
So that
mean, the
would be
meeting's in a
something-
week, so,
We certainly can, but I wouldn't be opposed to either putting that up on the website as well.
yep.
You know what I
So
mean?
I
'Cause
just prefer that you look at it first and
Sure.
not, because you're the one supposed to be
If
the
it's the
ones
same
who
document
approve
that I'm
the stuff.
thinking of, yes, I have read it, I have seen it.
Yeah, I
and
would just
said-
like to add a few things,
Yep.
but like I said, what is reconsideration, what
But-
is, and the other thing I had asked Carter about is we always seem to have, you have to have substitutes, amendments, and all of that in writing, and people are like scrambling for paper. In Phillipston, they do like a 3-section, but I just wanted to create something like simple. Are you doing a substitute? Are you doing an amendment? Then we can have papers and pencils like right in front of you. And that way, I don't know if a lot of people know that. Maybe they'll come with it in writing, but just to be helpful.
Again, I'm not opposed to that because we have definitely received some,
Well, it's like written in,
Colorful.
I had
It's
napkins.
colorful.
I was gonna say unique, but unique or colorful,
So,
items in writing.
well, I mean, it's not gonna be a blank piece of paper, but it just says like, what's the article number, just to try to help out a little bit, like what article number are you substituting, are you amending, are you,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying, they have to put their name on it too, or I forget, but just to try to make things with pencils and whatever, so if you're not opposed to that, I was gonna do that, tomorrow when I came in.
And not
and-
basically like a blank form, they can fill in a
Yeah,
little bit.
there's
and-
not, yes,
No, I think that would actually help the time because a lot of the times that we're waiting for people to write this stuff out and
right, on the back of their,
whatever they
warrant.
find, right, exactly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that
the
might be a
napkin.
good thing to say at the beginning, that if you are going to do a substitute.
Just that we
it has to
have
be
some,
down
yeah,
here.
not
Sure.
to,
No, I
it
can
has
definitely
to
add that
be
in there.
writing, so that
And that would be a
maybe they can
perfect
do it.
example of, that just changed, you know what I mean, from what I presented tonight. It's a great idea, I have no, sure,
Okay.
sure, that's fine.
all right, okay, thank you.
Mr. Tenzian, you got something to add?
No, well, I'll just let the moderator know what I'll do is, in the summary package that we have where the 3 articles, there are now 3 articles that require 2/3 vote, I'll add just to the summary line, so that people have it in front of them, that the 2/3 is of those people voting.
Well, that's a good idea,
Yep.
too.
Add it right on that
Now,
line.
I'll add it right into the text, Derek.
That's good.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions?
Well, when
Thanks,
we,
Derek.
I had one
Okay.
quick question, but I'm not sure if it's for the moderator or not. But when we read an article, like we had our meeting with Carter earlier in the week, when we read our article, and there may be questions, you're gonna be referring the person asking the question to, say, a manager of a particular department? Or is it the person that's reading the warrant that needs to try to answer that? Because I'm a little uncomfortable with that, it's unclear to me.
Sure. Well, I think you reading the article is only representing whatever it is anyway, right?
Right.
Okay, so if there's somebody more, I don't know if it's qualified or whatever you wanna call it. then-
Knowledgeable?
Knowledge,
then you
has
can
more
refer
knowledge
them-
in the area of that particular,
So I wouldn't say it's definitely set in stone. I would say, do you have anything further? Yes, I do. No, I don't. I have a representative. I have whatever. A lot of the times, they're even from out of town. You know what I mean, depending upon the project. And I'll tell you right now that I don't have a problem, even if they live out of town. Most of the time, we don't get any objection anyway. But we're gonna hear from them, especially if they have some information that we all wanna hear. We're gonna hear from them and they can explain it more and, definitely.
Doesn't the
We can
legislative
refer
body
them.
have to vote to recognize someone from out of town, like the superintendent, Carter? If Carter's gonna speak at all, he doesn't live in town, we should probably do that right in the beginning, does the town,
I
or do we
believe it's up
not
to the
have to
discretion
do
of the
that?
moderator.
Oh, it's at the, okay,
I believe it is, okay, and,
okay.
again, most of the time, we don't get any objection, and even still, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna hear from 'em. You know, we did that with the superintendent of the schools. Who knows more about the school than the superintendent of the schools? Why wouldn't we hear from him?
I ju,
You know,
Again.
or her at the time, you know what I mean? Sure.
a lot of times it's been asked of the body, and I'm just asking you, is that the right way to do it, or,
Well, a lot of times what you've noticed in the past is any objections,
okay,
nobody objects, okay. Because even if you object, I'm probably gonna stop and speak anyway, so,
okay.
you know, because I believe that, the perfect point.
Yep.
Maybe you don't know as much about the
Right.
topic than somebody else, then,
Right.
okay,
Right.
that's why we're here.
I
Because that's a
agree.
little fuzzy, the
Sure.
discussion of, you know, if you read the warrant, you better meet with that manager of that department real quick before Saturday and know all the ins and outs, and I'm like,
And that was
really?
my point earlier, still is.
I'd rather be able to say, excuse me, you know, Chief Bennett, could you, answer
Um,
that question or something?
I received the articles and all the warrants and all that, and you know what? There's a lot of confusing stuff in there because I don't deal with that stuff on a daily basis. You know, certainly Carter is much more educated on some of those things that are in there than I am. So I may not have the answer that you're looking for, but I'd certainly refer you to him. You know what I mean? And I would
Thank
want
you.
any topic, whether it be the school or, you know, business, budget, whatever, so.
Understood.
Yeah, just the legislative body isn't, they can't, just come up to the mic and go, hey, Julie, can you read that article? Everything through the moderator, because he decides whether or not who's gonna
Right.
address that, question. I think sometimes there's some confusion on that as well, it's through you.
Yes, I'll make the ultimate decision, but a lot of times I don't have any opposition, and
Yeah, no.
I'm probably gonna let them speak anyway, just,
Thank
you know
you.
what I mean? Why wouldn't you if they have good
Great, thank you.
controversial information? Sure.
Right. Awesome. Okay, great. Anyone else have anything else for Mr. Moderator? No?
Thank you.
Yes,
I have just two quick comments.
yes.
Is there going to be any type of time limit for people that, because we've had that in the past, that go on and on and on? Is there going to be any type of time limit set? And my other thought is, for the selectmen, since you are reading the articles, if maybe you could decide who is going to read what articles and have a chance to read
Yeah,
through them
where?
before you get there at the table and it's like, okay, I gotta read this, and that might be a better, representation so that you kinda know what the article is and if they're, I just thought that might be a better.
So, to answer your first question, I haven't set a time limit. I certainly can, but I think, and I think, trying to be fair about it, have your time. Don't go over yourself, 27 times saying the same thing. If you have new information, willing to hear it, that's great, that's excellent, okay? And sometimes it takes time, okay? The only thing I would probably set a time limit on, well, not the only, but one of the things I would is, we have 3 presentations, okay, 5 presentations.
Yeah.
Whether it's good, bad, right or wrong.
Right.
Okay, you have 5 minutes, you have 5 minutes, I could set a time limit like that.
Okay.
Somebody else that's up there just kind of speaking, I would say as long as, everybody's still interested in what they have to say, it's good information, it's not, anything we've, the past 5 people that got up on a microphone said the exact same thing, I'm gonna try to push them along a little bit. Secondly, and obviously you guys can answer this a little bit better than I can, but, with regards to reviewing the article and who's gonna say what first, I know specifically, some of the numbers we have discussed. So you start going over, each little number and each account number and all that kind of stuff. Yes, it's good, but I also think we can agree upon the information I have in front of you is accurate. Everybody agrees upon that's accurate. You don't have to read, 27 different account numbers because they have it right in front of them.
I'm doing that this year.
So yes, they can review it and be ready to read whichever article and all that,
No.
but I
Well,
think we
it will
can,
be up on a screen as
Exactly.
well, so there's not, I think Julie and I had discussed that with
Yeah,
Carter
we're not
as well.
going
There's
that
no
route this year.
need to read a chart. I think there's one, the
There's,
capital
might be 2 or 3 charts.
bylaw is really long too, but you know what, I mean, if some people,
Yeah.
they read, they hear, it's different, I think it's more accommodating to people, but I think that I like the fact that we have waived the second reading, cause do you remember when it used to be, it was read, then it was read by the moderator, and then, but we don't do that anymore, so.
We can agree upon it, it makes it, you
Yep,
know,
we just, right,
moves along faster,
Yep.
smoother, whatever. And
Mhm.
honestly, we haven't had any objections either, so
Right.
we're doing something right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? We're all agreeing upon it, and we're all, so, yeah, that's good. I hope we continue, whether it be budget or whatever other items, you know. As long as, and I gotta say, you know, we don't have any typos in the information that's there. The only other issue, the only other question was that if we were doing that by what was handed out, that we have enough handouts.
Yep.
Because what I'm to understand, one of the meetings, we didn't have enough, is that correct?
Correct.
So it was kinda like, okay, it's in front of you, so just for like printing, or I don't know, you know, who's gonna be, you know, keep
doing all the
track,
copy?
right? But, if we printed out 100 and 500 people show up,
Yeah.
then we can't say, okay, everybody look in your handout, cause I didn't even get one.
Right.
So we gotta, you know,
It's gonna be on the screen though, so that's our backup if we do unfortunately run out.
But I
don't
think for
that
the
we'll
people
run.
in the audience, that's really not enough. And each voter is entitled to a written, copy. So if we think that there are 500 people coming, then we have to make them, unfortunately. So, I know it seems like a duplicate, but, you know, I know for me, thank God they're a little bit, I have to say I like the warrant, this year with the summaries and, you know, thank you to the advisory committee for putting in, you know, the one line, so you'll all see it in one place right now, which I think is phenomenal. We've gone over it several times, but again, I mean, this writing is a little bit larger, but I have a hard time, and it's sometimes a little dim in there, and you need like a magnifying glass, so I kinda like the idea of both, but I think Carter, when I came in today and we were talking about that, we have to make sure we make enough.
the only
So-
other thing I would say along with that, is that with regards to any kind of handouts, information, anything exchanged, you know, and some people do this, I just, no surprises.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I would definitely like to
Yeah.
know what's gonna be on the table ahead of time. Okay.
We'll send you a final copy before we put it to
Oh,
print.
sure, not only, yours, but anybody else that may
Anybody,
have,
right? I would like
outside,
that too.
you know.
Yeah.
And I gotta be honest that for the most part, I'm gonna allow a lot of it as long as it's accurate, you know, truthful and good information. I'm not going to have somebody do all kinds of, you know, work on it and then say no to them. But on the other hand, if I didn't know about it, they may not be able to leave it on the table either. I like to know ahead of time kind of what's gonna go out there, so there's no surprises the day of the meeting. Who's handing out what and where are they and, you know, whatever topic it may be. You know.
Understood.
So, just to be fair to everybody, you know, if you're responsible to hand something in and get it, you know, we'll say approved
Mhm.
before the meeting, everybody else should be in the same boat, getting it approved by the moderator ahead of time. There's no hidden secrets on that. I
Nope.
don't wanna show up the day of and be like, I don't even, what is this paperwork? Right. You
I had
know,
to do that myself.
so,
Dennis, you had a question?
Yeah, this has been going on for as long as I can remember. Why can't we get more mics for the selectmen? This is ridiculous. You gotta hand it down, you spend all that time fooling around with a mic. Everybody should, at least every two people should have one.
Steve.
You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
I'm gonna refer that to Steve Castle in the back.
Yeah.
He
Steve.
raised his hand.
There are only so many channels on the soundboard,
Oh, is that right?
yeah, and you can only have so many of them.
Oh, well,
And
I guess
we
it-
actually load up, I think, all the good ports that they have there,
Oh,
so
I guess that answered my
unfortunately,
question then.
we can't do too many mics.
yeah,
Maybe we'll try to get one or two more though.
yeah.
Steve does
It
an
would
excellent
really help
job.
a lot,
He does a really good job. We usually go
He
over it
does.
ahead of time and all that.
yeah.
The other problem that we have is people turn the microphone on, they
Yeah.
shut the microphone off.
Yeah.
They put it here, they do, and it's just kind of a mess where we're trying to work through that.
Yeah.
We have some, well, you can explain it, but we have some that are battery operated.
Yeah,
So if you leave it on, okay, through the entire meeting, you
It's
go up there and
dead.
use it, now it's dead. Okay, then the other ones that are wired, we shut those off and you thought they were on and so.
that's the
it's-
biggest problem with the whole thing, is the microphones.
I think maybe before someone, you know, maybe, Derek, you could just say, is the microphone on? I know it's kind of a pain, but you know.
Yeah.
There's really, cause people all of a sudden start talking and you gotta go, stop. You know, maybe as part of the, just check and make sure the microphone is on when you come up and then turn it off when you're done. Or if you're just gonna pass it to the next person, then there's really no need to do that.
Well, ultimately, you should be with your name and address first, and if we can't have your name and address, then we know the
Right.
microphone isn't on.
Good point,
Yeah.
good point.
Just saying,
That's the obvious, yep.
right, you know, so hopefully that's our check, our mic check.
Right.
Okay.
you know.
Steve, you have something else to add?
I've made it a habit to bring extra batteries.
Thank you.
We'll take care of it.
Thanks for coming, Steve, I really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thanks for answering my question.
Does anyone else have anything for the moderator? I see nothing. Great.
Derek.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Moderator, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Right.
Thank you. I
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
I'll see you soon. Thanks.
He was re-elected last week, right?
He was, yeah. All right, we're gonna go into, now into the ATM motion, makers and the presenters. So I guess we're gonna go through the list of who's gonna be reading what, article.
Yeah, I met with Julie and Diane, having a sense of what the moderator's rules were gonna be.
Okay.
And what we talked about was to have a slide for each motion. I'll get over there ahead of time and make sure that they all fit on the screen, because I've not worked with your facility before. Hopefully, I think with only one exception, everything actually fits on one page. Actually, there's two. There's the revolving fund
Yeah, with the
and the
charts.
capital bylaw that won't fit on a screen. And this is the next closest one. So the idea is, that one of you would read the motion, stopping. The moderator then, as my understanding, intends to turn to the advisory board to ask them what their recommendation is. I do have all of those now. I've incorporated them into the document, sent it back out for a final review, and I mentioned it to Jeff when he was coming in, that I did want to make sure he looked at it and was comfortable with everything. So what I'm hoping for is that you would agree amongst yourself as to who was going to read the motions, and then be prepared to answer questions on the article. Obviously, we'll connect you with, if it's a department head, if it's someone else, we can make sure that you get that connection so that you're as knowledgeable as possible, and that you would know what resource to pull upon. I do have one other thing with regard to the presence or non-presence of town council at the end, but Diane, Julie, I don't know if you want to speak to this format and what we discussed at all any further?
I think you
You mean,
covered most
like,
of it.
how we were gonna do it?
Yeah, I think that was our discussion the other day.
So, it's kind of just like what Carter said, each article, in the warrant, or in the summaries and motions, and I thought you were gonna add like and advisory
I have,
committee.
I
Okay.
have.
Sorry, this is the older one,
It
sorry.
is.
So each one will have like its own page, and then the only thing that will go up on the screen is the main motion, any kind of chart, and any explanations, and then what the advisory recommends with their explanation. If there's a summary, is there the summary that goes with it as well, or no? So the summary.
Because people will have that in their
Will only
document.
have, that will be like in the, so it's just the actual stuff that we would be doing.
People will have a document
And then
that
this is what we
So
would
now
give
I'm
to the moderator after we read it, the first, who did the second, and then we just hand it to Derek.
People will have a document that's very similar to what you got. Town council has asked that I add, summaries, select boards, proposed motions to identify
Yeah.
who had prepared the proposed motions. And then because we're gonna be including, this year, there's about a page and a half report from the advisory board on what they thought worked well, what they thought could handle some improvement. That goes right at the very front.
Okay.
And then article by article would be what their recommendation was, along with the summary that's in here. And Jeff will look that over in the next day or so and let me know if it needs any adjustments to reflect what I got from them.
Okay,
So
So
the
it'll be
chart,
one document.
yeah, so the charts, like, you know, we don't, like what Derek said, we don't have to read those. You might wanna, I mean, the capital planning one, then you probably will have to read that, but that will be up to whatever we discuss here, and then it's just the one page, you know, for the
Understood.
public, and.
makes sense.
I think that worked
So that's
well.
26, well, there's 26, but.
There's,
mine
there's
is
22 for the board.
22.
The
Yeah.
23, 24, 25, and 6 would be up to the petitioners.
Yes, that's four motions apiece minus one person gets the last one. So, do you guys have any selections of what motions that you want to, what articles you want to read?
Yes, Doug has to read Article 6 because he's the most knowledgeable
Yes.
about that one, so I think that Julie and I said to Carter,
Okay.
okay, that one's
Yeah,
off the
that
table,
one,
it's
that one
Doug's.
we gave to you, Doug.
Okay, thanks.
You were, I think you were just voluntold. I think that's what they call that.
I just
I'm
think
not
like
sure.
that makes the most sense.
All right, do you want to go down the list, or do you want to just pick out the ones that you guys, that you've already selected you wanted to do? Did you, Diane, did you
No,
select the ones?
I haven't, whatever,
I really haven't either.
I'm
I have no
fine with
preference.
whatever.
What's that?
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
following the logic, Doug would, if I may suggest, would be best to present, in addition to 6, 15, 16, and 20.
Ratify the sewer bond?
15, 16, and 20?
Sure, they're all, those are the 4 capital items.
Oh, okay, so 15, that'd be great.
Well,
16
Doug's
and
off the hook.
20.
If he's agreeable to that, that would
Yeah,
be
I'm
my
fine with that.
suggestion.
I really hate to say this, but there has to be a caveat on that.
Yes, I, sorry, Diane.
I'm hoping that he's gonna be up to it. His surgery is tomorrow.
Oh, that's right.
It should be fine by then.
If Doug is not, I'll volunteer to take Doug's stuff.
I'm sure he will, I hope he will.
I'm just saying, if Doug, I forgot about that, I'm sorry. I'm sure I would've figured that out tomorrow, but, I'll take over Doug's stuff, that's no problem.
All right, so Diane, which ones,
Honestly, it doesn't matter to me.
oh, they're gonna go down the
Whatever.
list then? We'll
I
go down the
mean,
list
I
then.
can take 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and
I
then,
wouldn't want you to do all at once. We can alternate, I guess.
do we have, that way we wouldn't have to pass the microphone around
If
either.
you're gonna, depending upon how you're gonna do this,
Well-
if you do them in a row, it really will make the meeting just flow a little bit.
Yeah, so we're not going here, you're next, or, you know, I mean,
Okay, Ms. Brooks, you
I'll
go,
take 1 through 5.
you wanna do 1 through 5? Or 1 through,
Well, there's, how many
yeah.
would we have to read? I
do
mean,
1
Doug
through
just
5.
has 4, so, I mean,
Okay.
they are separate, but they're all capitals, so that makes sense, but if you just
Yeah, so
wanted
it's
to make
4
it
apiece
easier.
Plus 2.
or,
Yeah,
So 2
So-
people have to do 5.
okay.
Everybody else has to do 4.
okay. Okay, I got you 1 through 5. Doug's up. Then amended advisory committee bylaws.
I'll take 4 or 5 on that line.
What's 7, 8, 9?
Sure.
So,
7,
1,
8,
2, 3,
9,
5.
and 10.
So what ones does Cam have?
7, 8, 9, 10.
7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, yep, okay. Having a problem with.
Julie, you want 11?
No.
No?
I'll take 11.
No, I guess, no,
Why don't you take those?
I'll take 11, 12, 13, 14.
Okay, and then it's Doug.
Doug,
And then I'll take the next 3.
you want to take 17, 18?
Who's
Doug's
taking
doing
17 and 18?
17, 18 is
Julie.
Julie Richards.
Oh, okay,
No
sorry.
S.
Julie Richard?
I'll do,
No,
19
17,
as
no,
well.
17 is Julie, 18 is Doug.
18 is Doug for the
No.
no,
16 is Doug.
15 and 16 and 20 is Doug.
Right, 17, 18,
17, 18, 19, Julie.
Okay.
Yeah.
20, Doug. 21. Did you want that one and switch it out with me, Diane?
I'm sorry?
Number 21, did you want that
Yeah,
one
I'll
just
take
because
that one,
you're
that's fine.
knowledgeable?
Yeah, that's fine.
So do you want to switch that out with,
No, I'll just do it with the other ones, that's fine.
and I'll do 22,
And that's,
the money
Okay.
tech budget.
great.
and we're done.
Ta-da.
Great.
Okay.
Okay,
Who's got number 14? Oh, this is all gonna be you, right?
14's me.
11, 12, 13, 14?
Mm-hmm.
So if I have to talk to him, then.
The last question, the town council has advised me that he is not available on Saturday. His daughter is graduating from college. Seems to think that investment's worth acknowledging.
Yep.
So the question becomes, this warrant has been vetted many, many times over at this point. We've had quite a few conversations with them. I think the intent on the citizens petitions was notwithstanding whether or not they're legal, was to try to encourage the moderator to allow those votes to go forward. So the question becomes whether or not you want him to try to have somebody else there.
I don't think it's needed.
I agree with Diane. I think it would save us money. I
Yeah.
don't think we need it this year. I think it's pretty clean cut at this point.
If there's procedural stuff, I mean, Derek seems to have a good handle on that, and the town clerk, but I mean, everybody should be just allowed to vote and that stuff.
The warrants have been pretty well vetted by a number of council at this point.
Okay.
Okay, I will let him know that then.
Thank you. The IT service contract. Doug, you got that one? Go ahead, Mr. Tanzini?
Upon reflection, Mr. Chairman, I need to ask you to table this. It really should have a upset limit for the course of the year to be in full compliance with 30B. And we have an hourly rate, but we don't have a maximum rate. So I'm gonna need to ask him to go back. I'm sorry, I just noticed it now.
Yep.
I don't recall, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, can I, what was the total amount that was paid to them last year?
I'd have to check.
Okay, so I think, that's what I was thinking too. I'm
Sure.
like, oh, what do we pay them? Do we have to, so.
Was it over
we're
10,000?
Well,
tabling-
and we have
I got
and we
you.
have a budget,
Yep.
we have a budget that we'd set for it,
Yeah,
so.
but just to, yep.
Yep,
Okay.
I'll double check the FY 16 and the FY 18 amounts.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay, I just. Capital planning, work planning grid, the one that's in here, this is not.
Yeah, so the one that was in our emailed packet isn't the most current.
Okay,
So if that's the one that's printed here, you probably wanna. And that, we have new versions here. That's the updated versions. You.
Right, okay.
it's on big paper too, this is great.
Yeah.
Very good.
So, I mean, I don't know exactly why it was on, but the capital planning did meet, again, to review the other projects that, didn't make it to the, original sessions. So this is the revised, grid after, our last round of meetings. So this first page, that's page 1 of 1, is just the projects that, the departments asked to get moved forward this year. So these are all 2018 projects. You can see which ones are being paid from some other means other than taxation, and the amounts that would need to be included in taxation, either through a debt exclusion or available funds or whatever. So the projects that are in the capital plan that's on the warrant are all on this list. And then the 3 subsequent pages are the complete list. So the complete list then includes projects or items that are in the capital plan but weren't brought forward by a department for funding in 2018. So their funding is in future years.
Okay.
So that's the way the process is working, is we maintain this master plan that has everything in it. And every year when we meet with the departments, we bubble up to the top the items that are the department's priorities. The plan in total looks out, 20-some years, so that it can potentially try to help us forecast what we need to fund for capital.
But that would also include like laptop computers, et cetera, correct? Or is that a different?
Well, it depends if the town would choose to go out and buy a lump sum amount of computers that exceeded $10,000, then yeah, we would want to include that. But then again, we couldn't tag that to a specific department. We would need to have some sort of, department that's gonna maintain those assets. And then we would replace them on a regular basis. Typically, the way computers are handled today is departments request them, and we just have them in that IT expense budget for replacements as necessary.
Okay.
I don't know that we would, have the funds or the need to do a, large lump sum acquisition of computers.
No, maybe I'm just thinking outside the box here, but I mean, we should have a list of all our capital assets to include, pretty much everything, tables, chairs,
Right, well,
computers.
that's a fixed asset system.
Right,
Which
that's
we don't have.
We don't have.
This is a capital.
I got you, I was just thinking
items.
outside the box here a
Yeah,
little bit.
so definitely fixed assets is something that we probably do need to look at.
Yep,
Um,
okay. I was just thinking outside, I'm sorry, it just came
So,
to me.
the, Scott Air Packs, like, does that, they're purchasing some of those, right?
Yes.
And when, they don't still need, they won't
18,
need
they're
18,
required by
right? So,
2020.
how does that get updated?
Right, so once I know how many we actually purchase this year,
Okay,
or when they
then
come
you
next
update
year,
that.
they should tell us, okay, we don't
Okay.
need 18 now, we'll need,
Okay, so it's a
13 or
constant,
whatever.
okay.
so the department has to give us an
Mm-hmm.
update. That's if this actually stays as a capital item. I mean, there's been discussion
I
that
was just
that's
gonna
the
bring that up.
typical, that's a typical type of thing that the department should be in their operating budget and replacing a
Yeah,
couple of
once
every
we can,
year,
right.
Yes.
so that they don't have
Right.
to replace all
Right.
20 of them at once and put
Agreed.
everybody at risk at once.
No, I agree with that. That should be an operating budget thing. It's a piece of their equipment. It's just a,
Yeah,
More
it's
discussion.
the kind of the same computer discussion. Should we be making a lump sum of that type of thing, a lump sum purchase that qualifies as capital? Or should those things be generated through the operating budget on a rolling basis?
Well, I will say that some items are capital items, and yet in many communities, in the operating budget. So for instance, in many communities, the purchase of a police cruiser
yes.
is a capital item, but it's financed not out of the capital budget, it's included in the regular operating budget. And the change to the bylaws does envision that the SCBA's, even though you might like to get to a point where the fire department can annually replace 10 of them. If the value's 10,000, they would still come to the capital committee, although the monies would be in the operating budget. So, communities do it differently, and that is something that you could determine over time.
Right, and if we did do that, then yeah, we would just make the note in the funding source that it was the operating budget.
Right, the method of financing is the operating budget.
Yeah.
It's a capital item, and here's how it's being financed.
So on page 2 of 3, closer to the bottom for NRSD, it says the biomass boiler. Is that the wood chip boiler?
Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't say in here like that's already done.
But again, if you look at now the year of replacement column, see that's out to 2027. So that got done in 2015, and they
Where?
gave us a 12-year life expectancy.
It's a 20-year.
It's a 20-year.
You're reading the line above.
This column here
Oh, so it says F fiscal year requested.
for replacement.
For
So that's the year they're
replacement.
asking it to be
Okay.
replaced is 2027,
Okay.
because they gave us a,
Nope, 2035.
2035.
Okay, so that's
oh, okay,
why
I'm on the wrong line, yeah.
20 years.
it's a
Right.
20-year, yeah.
Right, so they gave us a 20-year life expectancy.
Yep, okay. So it's, okay.
And for reason of clarification, on some of the fire department items, we see that the originally requested is 2099. Are those wish list items?
Yes, those particular ones on the fire department, those are vehicles that they get through the government.
Okay.
So when they need to be replaced, they would try to seek them through that, and when we replace it, that goes back to the government. So the vehicle really goes back to the government at whatever time we replace it.
Okay.
And they would attempt to replace it with another government-supplied vehicle.
Okay.
But we kept it on here because it is a capital asset. If they can't get, if they have to retire one of these and they need a replacement and they can't get it from the government, then the town would have to fund its replacement.
That's understood.
Good job, you.
Okay, so that's that. The other comment I would like to make is, now that the plan includes the police station, the pump station, and the elementary school, when you look down here, there's the 5-year average, 10-year, and then the averaged average. That averaged average is what we should be funding the capital plan every year. And that number had been around in the 450,000 range. But now that we've added on these other big ticket items, that number's now jumped to just 2,197,000. Now, granted, a lot of that funding will come through the debt exclusion and that are being created for those projects. So it's not like we need to come up with new money to fund those. So that the money from debt exclusions, just automatically gets applied to that 2,000,001. So the reality of it is, though, is we probably still need to be funding capital somewhere in the 450 to 500,000 range every year.
I agree. Do we have any questions?
No, it looks great.
Looks great. Doug, you guys did a great job.
Thank you. The committee, does put a lot of time into it when we're working. The committee doesn't meet all year long.
Who did all the computer work?
Me.
You did a great job.
Okay, thank you.
I know that everybody works hard in the
Yep.
entire committee, but, take credit where credit's due. That's fantastic. That's sustainability right there. That's what drives sustainability. Common vic license for Lee's Hot Dog Stand.
I make a motion to approve the common victualers license for Lee's Food Incorporated doing business as Lee's Hot Dog Stand to expire on December 31st, 2017.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion, and a second, any other discussion?
Yeah, my name's spelled wrong in this document. My
Sorry.
middle initial is R.
Yes, it is.
Ooh.
Yep, and Folly, just to make sure the fire department as well as Board of Health have all been through? Did you hear the question?
No.
I said it was fire and Board of Health already been through?
Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, last week.
thank you.
Yep.
We'll get that corrected,
Yep.
Chairman.
I just want it to be legally binding. so.
Absolutely, yep, absolutely. You're gonna sign it first.
Can we just have like just a brief discussion before we vote? Holly, would it be reasonable to ask to create, like a sheet, cause we always ask all the same questions? Have they paid their taxes? Has the Board of Health been through? Could we just make like, to come along with that?
To
Could
go
we
with-
see that that's been, can you just sign off
In the
that
packet, you mean?
all, it doesn't even have to, well, yeah, I think that we should know, so that we don't have to you know, like, ask you all this, like, so that we know the fire department, like, anybody who had to come through, and that they've submitted, like, cause sometimes we've approved it subject to X. I would like to know, you know, when we make the motions, like, exactly what might be, missing or not missing, and we just, like, use the
I'm
same
happy
cheat
to do
sheet all the
that, but
time.
just so the board knows, I do that for all the licenses. I make sure they go through all the boards that they need to go through, and all the departments. But
Okay,
I'm
so
ha-
I
I'm
guess
happy
when
to do
we,
that if
can we,
that
when
makes
we
it
get
easier.
it, can you just say, you know, cause we have approved a couple of them subject to some stuff, so I would rather see, you know, either something on the agenda, subject to this, or just something simple
We can do
than-
it, we can do it in the administrator's report,
Okay, that's fine.
That's fine.
as we
That's
do with some of the others where,
Okay,
you know,
great. But
where we
just-
don't have full memos.
Yeah, I don't wanna create like a ton
Yeah.
of work, I'm just saying we always end up asking you the same
Right.
questions.
good. Yeah,
Okay, thanks.
and it's more so just so the public knows that we're.
Again, too, yeah.
Right.
Okay, notice, Narragansett, school district notice of debt insurance.
We didn't vote, did we vote?
Yeah.
No, we just
Oh,
had
we didn't.
discussion.
That's right. You're right, my bad. Any other question, discussion concerning Lee's Hot Dog Stand? I see none.
You have a first and second.
I do have a first and a second. Kim?
Abstain.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Okay, going into the notice of debt insurance under Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 16D. Mr. Tanzini?
Sure. School districts can issue debt on their own authority after having given the member communities notice, 7 days within their vote of their intent to issue that debt. You then have 60 days, if you wish, to call a town meeting to have the town vote yea or nay. You need not call that town meeting if you don't wish to. That is your option. In this instance, the $490,000 will be to design and construct bleachers, which my understanding is are in need of substantial repair and replacement. The first year interest on the project will be paid out of their athletic revolving fund. Downstream years will be paid possibly from their rec fund, but more likely, I am now told, they have projects in their capital program, annual capital program, which are dropping off, and they would then move this into that slot in that concept that we've talked about a little bit as debt smoothing, making a given amount of investment in capital. That 500 that somebody should be spending every year, whatever their number is. So we've learned a little bit more since we first got this. Be happy to answer any questions that I might, but the most immediate question becomes whether or not you wish to call a town meeting to have the town at large vote upon this. You need not, but that is your right. I do not know what intent, if any, your partner in the district, Phillipston, has, because this would have been presented to their selectmen on the same time and is most likely before their meeting tonight as well.
I'll entertain some conversation.
I guess, just so that the public is aware, I mean, we did receive an email in that, let me see, attached was a loan schedule, proposed for the district, which, was also attached. But I think, some of the other things is why applying for a loan, prior to having the cost of the project. It is essential that we initiate the authority to borrow immediately due to the fact that once the school committee authorizes the treasurer to initiate the process of securing the loan, both Phillipston and Templeton have 60 days to have a special town meeting to vote on the borrowing. After the 60th day, the loan can be executed. We need as much time as possible to complete the project prior to the start of the new school year. Those bleachers are, they've been advised, well, let me just finish. The district's financial advisor, Lori Lombard, advised us to apply for the max allowed without going over $500,000, so as to ensure we do not have to borrow twice. And then during the construction year of the project, the payment that is due is interest only. And that's where Carter was saying it would come from their athletic revolving account and from then the projects that fall off. The bleachers are 30-something years old and they are no longer code compliant. I don't know if anyone's been there, but when you stand on them, they bow, they're not safe. And once you have to take apart at least 20% of it, like they talked about just taking the boards off, they have to be brought to ADA standards. And at this point, I mean, they're not gonna be able to have graduation outside this year because they're not safe. So that was really, I just wanted the public to be aware of that, and I don't know if there's a point, you posting a debt schedule or anything
There are
like that
multiple,
for
it
the-
depends upon
There's all
the
kinds of
interest rate
scenarios
and
and,
the
right,
term.
so.
And for clarification, we're discussing if this should go to town hall meeting for discussion.
That is your option. You need not, but you may call a town
I
meeting.
would like to express my opinion that I don't think this needs to go in front of town hall. I think this is an item that a lot of people in the town would feel is necessary for Narragansett Regional High School, for their football teams and their athletics, and for graduation, which is very
For
important.
everything that's done out on that football field, it's
So-
just, it would be worse if someone got hurt.
That's my opinion.
Thank you. Now, it's been for some time now that they've been talking about this, but,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we just got the email May 4th. When are they projected to borrow, potentially? Just, not that it matters, because they're taking the
As soon as they
responsibility.
can.
60 days.
That's what I figured, all right. I mean, I'll entertain a motion, I don't think it needs to, go to,
Do we need a motion, or do
the
we
town
just?
at this
Well,
time.
if you're not going to call the town meeting and you've made that decision, I would respectfully suggest that you notify the district that you will not be calling a meeting and you're waiving your rights under Chapter 71, Section 16D.
So we would,
Send a letter over to the school district.
oh, yeah.
If that's your decision,
Yep, that,
then they know and they can,
anybody else have any questions or concerns about that?
Nope. Do you need a motion to say we're
Uh,
not going to?
Want to take a quick roll
I
call?
would suggest that, for the record, it would be best to
Yeah.
make a motion
So I
and
make
make
a
it
motion to
official.
send the letter to the district that we will not, put that before the town meeting and to, we'll waive our right to that.
Right, that shall not call a
That we
special
shall not
town
call a
meeting.
special
Second.
town meeting.
And who do you want to sign it?
The chairman of the board.
Okay, do you have a motion, have a second?
Second.
I have a second, any other discussion? Yes. Estimated cost of the bleachers? They're looking at the max of $490,000. So they have to split it.
And just for the record on that too, they had said that they are taking out, for the
Yeah,
500,000,
it
just
doesn't
so they
even
don't have to
cost
take
that
out
much.
two separate bonds. So they want to be covered just in case.
Okay, have a motion, a second, any other discussion? Seeing none, Cam?
Yes.
Joy?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Okay, going through the timeline for finance for the central school action.
That should have been Center, Templeton Center
That's
School.
right, that's what I got.
My apologies.
That's okay.
What we thought it would be a good idea to do, because you've got two sort of major activities that are occurring over the next 5 or 6 months. The first is on the town side, having had the exit conference and receiving a bit of an outline of some actions that the town must take between now and the fall town meeting. We have put together a simplified Gantt chart which shows that we will need to make a bond anticipation note offering the week of May 15th. The amount of that offering is obviously subject to the action of the annual town meeting. Should there be no rescission, action on Article 23, if I recall correctly, the ban that is sought would be about $5 million. Should there be a rescission, then the ban that's sought would be in the 1.55 millions. We need to get the bids back in. We would award the ban, and we're laying out the process of closing fiscal 17 transfers using the statutory authority of the Select Board and the Advisory Committee. The week of the audit field work, when we could have our meeting with DOR. We're going to do that again this year as we did for the 4 years. And then we know we need to get free cash certified, and we have some action to get a bond rating in the fall and be ready for the fall town meeting. Now, at that same time, assuming there is no rescission, and if there is a rescission, then basically everything under the second set of activities, the school building activity, basically that half of the Gantt chart goes away. At the same time, in order to get construction this fall, basically 1 year behind the hope of last year, we know that we have got a wide variety of things that we need to get done in order to make the bond offering. The financial advisors feels it would be best to have the construction bids in hand. And also, we would need the rating from the bond agency. In order to get the rating from the bond agency, they're going to want to see our audits done, our free cash certified, and the fact that we have a draft fall town meeting warrant that lays out all of the actions that we need to do, and perhaps even a draft recap sheet, which is something that we like to do early on. And so you can see how that all works backwards. And in order to go to bid, you've got to go back through the pre-qualification process. The pre-qualified contractors have been sitting out there for a year now. They're stale. We need to go through that again. And whenever something has been on the shelf for a considerable period of time, and design has now been on the shelf for about a year. We also know that there was a change in the design codes effective January 1, 2017. So the architects need to go back through, analyze the codes, do any redesign that needs to be re-estimated. So I put this, what I call simplified Gantt chart together, sent it off to the owner's project manager, to the school, to the town accountant, to the town auditor, DOR, a pretty fairly broad reach of folks who have been involved in this. The financial advisor, and from their viewpoint, although one or two aspects on the building side are a little tight, this does fit together well. Everything happens lockstep in time. DOR has suggested we add some tasks to it, and Kelly and I talked about that earlier today. And, we're going to try to keep the minutia out, but a couple of the major items we'll add, and we'll also assign responsible parties. The reason that I bring this in front of you is, one, so that you can see we do, in fact, it was one thing to stand up and say, yep, and we have this plan, and here's when we're going to do it. It's another thing for us to show you when and what the flow is. Secondly, because the redesign needs to start very shortly. So if we offer the ban the week of May 15. We get our bids the week of May 22. We actually execute the ban May 29. We need to be ready to go into the redesign effort on the school. So we also gave you a page of approximately what it would cost to get from 529 to, 11.6, 11.13 in terms of architectural engineering, owners, project managers, costs. So we wanted to lay this out there so you could feel comfortable that we had a game plan, that you could actually see it. You could see how the school activity interacts. And we saw and heard from you a recognition that on or about 529, assuming there's no revocation, rescission on the bonding authority, that the school effort would go back into its redesign.
Okay.
We did meet with the school building committee the other evening. I think it was a very productive meeting. In addition to just talking about these general things, we talked to some degree about their need to improve invoice processing and be ready for change order processing and to address some of the issues in the management letter. And their decision was to, and I think rightly so, was to concentrate on the things that get them to 529, to the restart of that design review. And from that period, they would then work on all of their processes that they really need to fine tune in order to be ready for real construction. And Cameron was there that evening, as were you, Mr. Chairman.
It was.
Diane Haley Brooks sits on the committee, so certainly any
Mr.
observations.
Passos does as well.
I do.
Oh, sorry.
Both do.
Okay, so certainly any observations that y'all want to make for the balance of the group that couldn't be with us. Sorry, a little long-winded, but
No, it's okay.
there's quite a bit to it, I think.
No, I think that, we went through the same chart at the building committee, the OPM went through, they kind of did this is what the town needs, this is what the school needs, this is, to bring it all together. Timeframes are kind of tight, but they're working within that, and, we have to wait for town meeting to go or not go, so.
Mr. Administrator, do you think you'd comment again on the timeliness of this Gantt chart that you had created and how there is no room for delay?
There really is no room for wiggle. In fact, it's a little bit more compressed than we would like. In order to have construction start late fall going into the early winter, we figure mid-November is about, right around town meetings, basically the drop dead. And in order to have construction start, you have to have a signed construction contract.
Right.
In order to have a signed construction contract, you have to have executed your bonds. In order to have bonds executed, you need to have major offering, which the financial advisor feels we need to have the bids in hand. So the piece of this that is truly very tight is getting the architect started the week of May 29. They've taken their people off this project, put them on lots of other projects, and as the OPM said, they need to get the band back together. And also, they wanted more time to do the redesign than we've allotted in here, and I had to squeeze it, and the OPM knows I've squeezed it down, and that's gonna be a challenge. Getting the redesign done, started as early as we need, and getting it done within as short a time period, that's gonna be a challenge. There is truly no room for error in this.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator.
We'll readjust if we have to.
Right.
But this is based on the best that we know, because we really feel strongly that we need that town meeting by mid-November in order to get our recap sheet done and our tax bills out and everything else.
So we have a really good game plan going forward.
We do, I think, I think we have a good game plan going forward. But I do need, the record to reflect, that unless there's objection from the board, it is the, intent of the building committee, to enter into the redesign phase, of the project, once we're past the town meeting. Unless there's a rescission of the debt authorization.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for the presentation, I appreciate it. Anyone else have anything to add? Nothing? Yes,
Do we know what code changes there have been since the original architect?
from what the OPM said was some electrical changes,
Energy.
energy changes with new construction. I guess they changed January 1st.
And that is always a danger of any delay in a design.
Right. Good question. Okay, great. Any board staff comments?
Yes. So, normally, we would have had a workshop at the beginning of the month, but we could not because it was voting day.
Right.
So since we need to go through the management letter,
Mhm.
are we just gonna do that June 5th and wait? Or are we gonna have a meeting next week? Or are we going to, what are we gonna do? I don't think we should delay
I would ha- I
another
like-
3 weeks, or 1, 2, 3, yeah, to go over the management letter, or to begin the process of discussing and thinking about what the priorities are, what's already being worked on, what we need to do going forward, you know, a timeline, all of that. Who's gonna do what, responsibilities, all of that, so.
Absolutely. I think the 15th is okay, it's okay with me. 15th okay with you?
Yeah, May 15th.
Any question with 15th?
Nope.
Do a workshop?
Yep.
Just designed only and geared towards the management letter,
Just
period.
talk,
Mhm.
yep.
Just a round table.
6:30, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Sure.
Are there any other and anybody else who should be
Sure.
coming, like the accountant, and
Yep,
I think that, you know, whoever you feel should come, so that would be at 6:30. Okay, thank you.
And I'm sure, as selectmen, we all had the opportunity to read the management letter, so I mean, please come to the table with, ideas, suggestions, concerns, but also with those concerns, come up, we can get some ideas collectively, but, if we all work together, I'm sure, putting Templeton, where it needs to be moving forward, which it is, and keep the progression moving forward, and keep that sustainability. And I think collectively coming together on the 15th and identifying the weaknesses that we have and enhancing our strengths, I think it's gonna be more beneficial. And having some of the financial staff here might be good too. Okay.
I would ask that the board review the DOR meeting memorandum as well.
Yep.
And I know that Tony put up on the wall, we've got this deficit in capital, this deficit here, we're gonna add this to the DE one, we're gonna add that. I think that if you get a chance to look at that, it would be helpful so that we can make sure everybody's kind of in tune of the multiple actions that will be needed at the town meeting. Some not at the town meeting, simply on the recap sheet. But we'd like to make sure that everybody's kind of, aware of the workout steps as well.
And, can you go over briefly the telecon that we had today, with Collins real quick?
Yes.
'Cause that's gonna impact the 15th.
Yeah, Collins is getting back into the development of their financial plans, their policies, which had been somewhat on hold as we were getting the audit completed in our numbers of meetings with DOR and the like. We did encourage them to concentrate on coming up with a formal revenue estimating policy or procedure, so that we can try to work that through with the advisory committee and have that ready for October, November, so we're not revisiting that debate all over again. Secondly, a write-off policy. You haven't written off any of your ambulance bad debts in over 3 years. The last time you did it, I can't remember, 125 to 225 is, I'm not sure which one's the right number, but certainly 100.
Something.
Yeah, I mean, it was substantial. That shouldn't be going. We want to make them an annual part of the process, and we want to have it done for fiscal 17. Also, we want to work upon you don't have a fund balance policy. GASB 45 requires a fund balance policy, which talks about what your cash reserves will be, and, you know, how you'll use undesignated fund balance. So we talked about trying to define which of several stabilization funds you should have, how much should be in there, what should the floor be, don't let it go below this, don't let it go above that, how you're gonna put money in there, because we wanna make sure that when, or to the extent we can, we wanna be ready so that when free cash is certified, there isn't a rush to A, spend it, or B, put it all in stabilization. Neither one of those is a good thing. You need a balanced plan. Yes, you'll have some capital needs, but you also need to start putting the monies in. Some communities' first claim on undesignated fund balance is to pay any shortfalls in the current operating year, as opposed to trying to spend 6 weeks, 8 weeks scrambling, looking for $12 here, $18 there to transfer all over the place.
So they're gonna come up with those recommendations for us to look at?
Yeah, yeah.
And then we
So
vote
we'll have
on that?
Pardon?
Then we kind of say, yes, we wanna do this, no, we wanna do that.
Well, I think that what we kind of want to do is do this in some phases, you know, talk about what kinds of stabilization funds, how should you develop that. So we'll kind of start working that through if we have time Monday as well.
Did they give you a time on when they would get back to us?
They're supposed to get back to us within 2 weeks or so of when they thought a new timeline for them. They've gotten an extension or a pass from DOR in terms of getting it done by the end of the year, fiscal year.
This was part of the grant that we got,
Okay.
the finance grant. Okay, anybody have anything else? Rick, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Are we going into executive session?
Can you pull up the executive session? We had a request for an executive session, reputation. Do you have the,
Oh, the reason?
yeah, I can't remember the
Yeah, they're all
exact
over the-
statute.
I don't, yeah.
Is this about, this was the email, Diane, that you sent out?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, okay.
Was that a no from you?
No, I just didn't know if it met the criteria, but I could be wrong.
You have to do it under reputation is the only place you can.
Understood, okay, sounds
put
good.
it.
Yeah, if we can't do it, then I'm not gonna do it.
Well,
No.
the only way,
I thought-
you can do it under reputation, but you'll have to restrict your conversations to that point, that part.
Okay, sounds good.
This one should be one.
No, that's good. I just didn't know.
I didn't, yeah. But we won't be coming back into open session, right?
No.
We're just doing this
Thank
one.
you.
Okay, so we have to read the right.
Mr. Chairman, I would respectfully request a executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21-1, to discuss the reputation of an individual,
Okay,
So moved.
and that there would be no action coming out of this.
okay. Have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion is second, any discussion? I see none. Kim?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
I vote yes as well. Thank you all for coming.